There's already something inside of you that you will use as you get older to choose your career field. My name is Alisa Casas, and currently I'm the Communications Director in the Public Information Office for St. Mary's County Government. And I'll come back to what that means and what that entails in just a little bit. I have a fairly wide and varied background in communications. I grew up in the state of New Mexico, and my parents owned a radio station. So I worked on the air as a DJ as soon as I turned 13. I did not get my official radio operator's license until I was 14, but I've been involved in communications ever since I was in my teens. I moved to Maryland in 1996 to work for a radio station. The company that I worked for bought 97.7, the Bay radio station. And I worked there as an early morning DJ, and then I worked in sales and also as a general manager for the radio station. I've also continued my career in St. Mary's County. When I left the radio station, I became the station manager for local MetroCast cable channel 10. I was there for several years. I hosted a number of television programs as well as hired staff and hired different people to host television programs. From there, I went to work at NAS Patuxent River for the F-18 program, and I was the assistant director of communications for a while. And from there, I've become the communications director at St. Mary's County Government, as I mentioned, in the Public Information Office. So I had a little bit of a different route. I did not go to college right after I got out of high school. I actually turned 40, and I had one grown daughter and two younger daughters. And I realized I had a little window of opportunity, and I went back to college because I'd always wanted to pursue higher education and getting my degree. So I'm glad that you asked why I chose what I chose as far as a degree, because being an adult and a working adult, I knew I wanted to get my degree. It was very important to me to set that example for my daughters, but I couldn't make up my mind what kind of a degree I wanted to pursue. I had a lot of different interests. So I talked to a lot of my friends. I talked to my family. I did a lot of polling and say, hey, what do you think about me? What do you think I would fit in? Tell me what you see in me as a professional. And I got the very best piece of advice from a coworker. And he said, Alisa, you're 40, you're not 18. So you want to do something that you can make the best use of what you've already done in your career field and the remaining time you have as far as being a full-time employee. He said, do communications, you're good at that. So I did pursue my communications degree. I went through the College of Southern Maryland, got my associates, and then I continued on to the University of Maryland University campus and got my bachelor's degree in communications. I've always had an affinity for communications. As I mentioned, I grew up in radio. I have always enjoyed talking to people, and I've always enjoyed language and what can influence somebody with just the use of just the right word. So that's been my direction and field. So it is in me. It's intuitive, if you will. You probably already know at your age some things that you like. Maybe you like science and math. Maybe you like English. Maybe you like art. Maybe you like dancing. Maybe you like caring for people. There's already something inside of you that you will use as you get older to choose your career field, because going to work full-time, the deep satisfaction will come from doing things that are related to what you were created to do. I like language. I like words. I love the written word. I literally get a feeling inside of myself when I read words that are put together beautifully. For instance, the Bible. There are some scriptures in the Bible that just make my stomach feel a certain way and my heart feel a certain way because of the beauty of the language. I like literature. I love speaking to someone and connecting with them through communication. So I would say that it's always been intuitive to me. It's been a part of who I am, and being able to pursue a degree and being able to see how I might be able to help people or influence the world around me through writing or through language or through helping other people be better communicators is one of the reasons I chose this field. Hmm. My favorite part of the job is taking a question from somebody. But let me rephrase that, is when somebody comes and says, hey, I need to say this, or we need to get this message out. My favorite part is figuring out how to get a message from someone else to their audience. And that might sound easy or it might sound confusing, but if you think about it this way, no two people would describe the flavor of chocolate cake the same way. And how would you describe the flavor of chocolate cake to someone who's never had it? And that's how I kind of picture what I do. If somebody comes to me and says, I need to describe chocolate cake to a group of people who've never had chocolate cake before because it's about to become their national dessert, how can we describe that to them in such a way that they would understand it and then they would be willing to try it and embrace it? So I know that kind of seems like a funny example, but that's my favorite part is taking a message that somebody else wants to share and writing it and delivering it in such a way that it is understood by whoever the audience is. That right is communicating those kinds of messages. Words are so imprecise. Let's talk about one word. We'll take one word specifically. We'll take the word blue. Okay. So if you're a police officer, blue means something to you. If you know someone with autism, blue means something different to them. If you take somebody who is struggling with depression, blue means something else to them. If you take someone who is outside on a sunny beach on a beautiful day, blue means something different to them. And so that's a really simplistic example of how people perceive words. And so the hardest part of my job is trying to find a way to communicate someone else's message to a group of people in the most clear manner as possible. That specifically with St. Mary's County government, the most rewarding part of my job is that I sincerely consider myself a public servant. Um, when there are storms, when there's bad weather, when there is something, a crisis in the community, it's my job as the communications director to find all of the ways I can to get the message out. If there's a thunderstorm coming in or a hurricane or anything like that, I send out news releases. I coordinate with emergency departments. We use social media. We use phone calls. And it's my job to make sure that I am getting the message out to as many people as possible to protect property and to protect lives and homes. And that's just so satisfying to me at the end of the day to be able to use my job to do that. Language, just language and people's perception, that's always a challenge. Learning the ways that people communicate, and at any given time I'm talking to people that have a different perspective. If you're talking to an elected official, they want to message out a certain way. If I'm talking to an older citizen who lives by themselves and is concerned about situations, learning how to talk to them. So I think learning how to adapt my language to different people to be able to best connect with them or serve their needs. That's been one of the biggest challenges. I am getting coaching from and learning from a very, very well-known communications professional. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday on my coaching phone call is he said that communicators, professional communicators, also have to be sociologists and anthropologists. And the reason they have to be anthropologists is because they have to understand how people act and respond in all kinds of different situations. And that means I have to learn a lot about a lot of things. For instance, the commissioners have a perspective on roads and flooding, and residents have a perspective on roads and flooding. And so learning as much as I can about how the county operates within roads and how we control flooding, and then learning as much as I can from community members about what challenges they would face if their roads were flooded and so forth. So does that make sense? The challenge is really, I have to constantly be learning. Read all of the time, a lot of reading, a willingness to learn in all circumstances and situations, patience, and a really determined focus on listening, being a good listener. I still struggle with that every day. You know, I think it's a natural human thing to listen and be ready to want to talk, but to listen really, what was the question? In other words, what are the words, but also what is the message behind the question? I'll give you an example. If your mom says to you, "Did you clean your room yet?" Sometimes it's just a question. And then sometimes it's also a warning, right? Because she already knows if you did not clean your room, she's not really asking you, but she's saying to you, you need to get this done. So here, does that make sense what I'm saying? There's words and then there's a message. So the ability to really listen to what someone else is saying, to be able to understand their specific words and then their message as well. And I have learned and gotten better every year. I think more about words I'm using and their effect when it comes to talking to my family. So yes, I would say it's great for my profession, and it's been great for relationships in my family too. No, I love that question. I'm trying to think how to answer that. It's funny, I was reading my Bible this morning and I was looking through it and I found a little sticky note inside of my Bible from 2013. And the sticky note was a message from my heart. I've always loved being a professional communicator and speaker. And in 2013, I had written down that I wanted to be a speaker for women of faith. I don't know if you know what that is because they're not around anymore. They've all retired, and so there's different groups. But I've given multiple message at women's groups. I've given messages at a couple of churches, and so there's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks," and I think of that a lot with some of the words that I use. And so when I was talking earlier about there's something inside of you that God already created in you that will help you decide and know what your career path is. I truthfully, I struggled for a period of time with the job I'm in now because it is a service to the community, but it's, in my mind, it's not a direct relationship between me serving God and my job. And I've sought a lot of counsel on this. And what someone said to me is, you don't ever know what God has put you in a position for. but I know that God gave me this job. It's a very long story, but I absolutely know that this job was for me of God. And so I often think about my faith um, and my belief in God when I am doing things for elected officials or for other county departments or for the public. So they definitely connect with each other. Yep, I sure do. Um, um, Never be afraid to ask another woman to help you. Um, Ever, 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 ever. If you meet a woman that is in a career field already, ask her for help always, because I will tell you, for myself and any other professional woman I've ever met, we want to reach behind and say, let me help you, let me pull you, let me bring you, let me show you, let me share. And just human nature, everybody likes to talk about themselves. So they will tell you what they have done in their job to be successful. So that's number one. Never be afraid to ask another woman for mentorship, for help, for guidance. Um, read and then read and then read and then read and then read. There's a scripture in the Bible that says there's nothing new under the sun. If you do a lot of reading, you will see what other people have done that worked. You will see where there have been failures, and you will see where there have been successes. And hopefully you can learn from other people by doing that. So ask other women for help always, 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 and do lots and lots of reading.